Do you mind hitting?
Got it.
Um, all right, everyone. Happy Halloween. I guess we'll start with that. Thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate everyone that's here. I know it was a last minute tweak to the schedule. We are actually going to begin with Cheryl, who will discuss with us some of the feedback on the new CME registration software. Cheryl, do you need to share screen at all or no?
Yeah, why don't you just in case somebody has questions, maybe I can point something out.
Okay, perfect.
But basically with the instructions that went out with the new software, I noticed there was a couple of people that had emailed me about like a resident had already registered themselves into the system, and the coordinator is not able to register because they wouldn't know the password. So there was like a couple of ideas I had. I know that you folks will not be able to use the residence umassmed.edu because that password is tethered to the UMass entity with SSO. So that wouldn't even be an option. So another option would be umassmemorial.org if they haven't already put it into the system, or even their personal emails. Of course, I know that might not work because they don't look at them, but I mean, it's a way. And for example, when you folks register in during orientation, you use that email and you can make up a password that's one password for all your residents, so it's not convoluted. But I didn't know if people may have questions after reading the instructions. I can maybe help out a little bit or elaborate a little bit more. If anybody's out there that had a question. No?
I'll ask a question, I guess. So on my end, we're both, of course, as most of the residents are. So your clinical and your EDU accounts, and they use both their accounts. So I just recently, I think I beat some of them to their EDU accounts and I was able to register them. But ones who already have their EDU accounts, I am not able to do anything in order to, of course, have them either come to my office or I go to their office and kind of plug them away, and then I can put in the cost center where they don't see it. But I have not done that, of course, but I just wasn't sure what is the better way to kind of solve that one.
So if they're not in any grant rounds or anything in the system, and I can look at that, I could merge them into the UMass Med, and you can tell them if they are in a grants rounds to use UMass Med. That's a thought. Their email, the UMass Med email.
Well, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, they do use it because they have to make sure they do like all these module trainings and all this stuff. So regardless, they have to use the EDU account, so they have to be activated. So they go ahead, they activate it, of course, they do the training modules that they have to that are required. So now here I am trying to now, regardless, trying to get the CME stuff for them for CPR or BLS and stuff like that. So it's active regardless. They use, of course, the memorial.org more. The only time they ever go to the EDUs is just using it for the modules that they have to do on the school side.
Okay, because they're used to using umassmemorial.org when you folks register them. So I mean, they could have two accounts, one with their CME with the umassmed.edu, and then one with the umassmemorial.org for you folks to register them through for certification courses. Because there's no transcripts involved with the certification courses, so it doesn't necessarily need to stay into like a transcript or a CME in their housed into their other account. It's just a thought that you folks could do to be able to register them without having to get their password.
I have and this is me having a moment, but can you please clarify So it's one system that will do their continuing medical education in terms of like grand rounds and things like that, but it will also be used for research. Is that what is happening? Just to fully understand, it's one system that houses everything?
Yes, so all of the coordinators that had put through applications for grand rounds goes into the system. And so that's where people go in to sign in during the classes. They can get their CMEs, they have everything's like tethered into this system. Also, we are housing the certification course links to this system as well. So the coordinators can go in and register the residents, the docs, the nurses, everybody else can go in and register for the course. When I found out that there's no mechanism like we had in the past where a coordinator could go in and find a person who's already in the system and just click on it, I had to kind of think about a way to allow you folks to register on behalf of another resident. And those were my ideas. I don't have another solution to that. All the new software out there is more geared to, we call it identity protection. And, that's key to have something like that. So those are the options I can think of. And is if people still stuck? Like I know that there's residents that did both. And and reading the instructions, we said, choose one. I don't know if necessarily they had to go in and register when that blast went out, because they don't necessarily need CMEs, but they do go into the RSSs, so they do need to be into the system. Is anybody else stuck with this?
Yeah, I think one of the confusing parts is that I personally didn't realize that it's the same system because I don't handle grand rounds, but obviously the Department of Pediatrics does.
Mhm.
And residents may sign up for things like grand rounds or things of that manner. So I didn't realize that they were using it for that as well. In my head, that was more faculty, but now that makes a bit more sense. I know that when I tried to register someone, I did have difficulty with it. I have not tried recently. I don't know if other coordinators can chime in and just share some of your experiences.
Once I actually spoke to Cheryl over the phone and she walked through it, it was perfectly fine. But like I said, the only issue is just having that both edu and memorial.org. But everything else, when you follow the instructions and stuff like that, it's really easy. I kept putting in my information. So that cleared that up right away and whatnot. So I completely forgetting the step where they're the ones that have to I have to put their information in, not like it used to be. So like I said, it was fine and great once I finally spoke to her over the phone, which was very helpful. But it's still the whole issue. Like I'm trying to set two of them up for BLS, but I can't because of the fact that they had their memorial.org and edu accounts active, regardless of their CMEs or not. So I'm not sure what I'm seeing on that step in order to complete this for them.
You can email me the names. I can take a peek and see if they're using one or the other, and then I can, if they're not using them, there's no reason why I can't merge something that doesn't have anything in it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And then you can use one of them.
All right, thank you.
But I think what would be helpful is to find a system that works for you and let the residents know that. Like you could, like another year now, somebody's gonna go, oh, I'm gonna put my UMassMemorial.org in there. Oh, it's already in there. Let me change the password. Well, now, so I think they just need to know that you're using this to register them on for these for these certification courses, and that would probably be helpful as well.
Okay, so I guess the step I'm missing, and I'm sorry for this, so if they use a memorial.org, period, so let's just leave it at, let's just say that's what that is. So now I'm gonna use a EDU account, but again, so I just tell them that they can use it, I can go ahead and register with an EDU account and not to use it for their CMEs, or?
You will not be able to use their umassmed.edu because it already has a password they create in the UMass Med system because it's SSO. So when you're going and using an SSO product, it's tethered to the email that was created by the resident in the in UMass for all of the different websites that are used for SSO. So you wouldn't be able to create or get into that particular account because that password can't change. So you would have to either use umassmemorial.org or their personal email address. And you can like let them know that confirmation went out to your personal email. I can also try to think of a way that I can capture their UMass Memorial email through the registration and send out the links that way, but right now I just can't do that right now. And that might be another helpful thing if you're using the personal.
So Ez, were you using UMass Med?
I was using the UMass Med because they, like I said, they use umassmemorial.org as well. So for, I don't know recently how many I had, used the EDU accounts, not a problem, went in after I spoke with Cheryl, and it was smooth sailing for those. Now I have two that I need to register, trying to use their memorial.org or their EDU, and I can't because they have those already activated.
Yeah, and email me those and I'll
Yep.
see which ones. Well, you got them in the system, it's fine. You know, if we can move on with the certification, you know, for this period. You know, if they're stuck and they don't have they're saying they don't have a password for a particular website in UMass, they will just change it, which is really not a big deal. I don't see a big deal on that. So I mean,
So Cheryl, for the ones that she used the UMass Med email when she registered them, when will SSO affect that? Will
so
it
if you want
affect
to
it?
go into a UMass Med website that requires SSO, so they'll plug in their password and it won't work because she made a password. Even if that, I don't even know if that even, so they'll just change it. They'll just forget password and then just change it. I don't see no harm, no foul on it, to be honest with you, and she got them in. So I'm not sure what's a better way. Just should we just use personal emails since you're going to have them starting with orientation, or you know, try to, or the residencies can just, you know, have their own way of registering them if they tell them to just use umassmed.edu for signing in for grand rounds, so they can have the UMass Memorial for free for themselves to use to register them, and the residents will just need to know that's why we're doing that.
Yeah, and just so everyone understands why we're in this position, because when the system changed, an email went out to everybody saying, hey, set up this account. And so the residents that were monitoring their email were like, oh, I'm going to set up an account. And that's where this problem came from. We're not even entirely sure that the residents need any sort of an account for Grand Rounds because it's really meant to be tracking CME, which the residents don't need. You know, the faculty, the attendings need to track their CME. So it's a little bit of a kerfuffle that this all sort of played out this way. And once it went out and they captured those initial people who were willing to set up an account, the damage was done, and we don't know who those people are. Cheryl can't go in and say like, oh, here are all the residents who set up an account when that email blast went out. So it now is sort of like, we don't even know how to help find out who those people are in your programs, you'd have to ask people, like, did you set up an account and work it out with them? Correct, Cheryl?
Yeah, or like I said, if you wanna, if there's a few of them, I can see if they don't even use one, if they don't use their UMass Memorial, I can
Right.
merge it, clean it, and then you can sign them up that way too. But, and that's another way of doing it also, Melissa's letting them know.
So even though the residents don't get CME in family medicine, that's how they are tracking their attendance
Okay.
rounds. So they do have to scan the QR code thingy to do the evaluation in order to be counted as attending grand rounds.
Yeah, and that was
Just-
another thing I was gonna mention after that too, that they do use it, because now we have the mobile app. It's a lot smoother, they can just click a button, there's no paperwork that need to be involved. And then they do the evaluation, so. Cassie, you have a question?
I just spoke up. Thank you.
Oh, that was you, okay.
I know Melissa Grenier wanted to say something because I think we were both getting ready to start at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to let everyone know what I did for cardiology, if that would help everyone. The EDU account was for the CME purposes, so that's what they use to scan to get their credit. I mean, faculty and the fellows residents for Cheryl's purposes to get BLS, ALS. I created a their UMass Memorial account to each fellow. And then I did the same password like she suggested to make it so much easier. So from there, you can set all of your fellows residents up for ALS, BLS. And the only issue is if you forget their password, you can send them a link to change that password and then go from there to do that. I can help anyone if they have any questions. Or I can even show you guys how to see who has an account, who doesn't. I had to do like the whole department. So there's an easy way without bugging Cheryl as well.
Well, thank you, Melissa.
You're welcome.
No, I think that sounds wonderful. I wonder if, Melissa, if we can work together and get some screenshots that we can share, that way we can have almost, oh my goodness, like a guide as to how to obtain that information. Did you
Yes.
happen to have any that already had set up their own UMass Memorial? Did you just have them like renew their password and change it to that same generic one that you had?
So I can, we can maybe do another meeting. I can sit with you guys. I just created an account for each fellow. I don't know how many residence fellows you have. So it took me like a few hours to get everyone an account. But it was mainly for the CME purposes because I'm part of a lot of the conferences. So I know a lot about this portal. I worked a lot with Lynn to figure out how to merge them. So Cheryl knows a lot about that too. Like she was explaining, I understand what she's talking about. I've been the point for cardiology for this whole entire system. So I'm definitely more than happy to sit with any of you to help this, whatever is the easiest way.
Great. Anybody else?
Thanks so much, Cheryl.
You're welcome. Have a happy Halloween, everyone. Take care.
Bye, Cheryl.
Bye.
All right, guys. Oh, sorry. I just got a weird Zoom message, but disregard my face just now. The next person that I have on the agenda is Deb Rolo. She wanted to chat about visiting residents. Deb, do you have access to share screen if you need it?
I do.
Okay.
Let's see. And share. Okay, and then let's see, I want this. Hold on 1 second. Oops. I guess I gotta do it this way. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
So Deb, you're gonna start out with observerships and then do a brief thing on visiting residents?
That is correct.
Perfect.
Let's see. Guess we can. Oh. Now, what are you seeing? I think I just messed up again. Hold
We're
on.
seeing the presenter view, so we see your slide and the next slide and any notes that you may have added to this.
Okay, but I'm just gonna do it this way. Is that all
Okay.
right? Sound good?
Yeah.
Because I had my other monitor shut off, but it went to it anyway, so anyway. So there's been a lot of requests for observerships. And back in the day, coordinators would reach out to GME regarding observerships. Dr. DeMarco would then reach out to Andy Carson, who would allow some and make exceptions for others, not allow some. The policy on the clinical side really is that observerships are not allowed, but there are some cases where there are. So what I'm going to do is answer the following questions. Does UMass allow observerships? Does GME oversee observerships? Who should I reach out to with any observership requests? Is there a current observership policy that I can obtain and or provide to others? What observerships are not allowed and what observerships are allowed? So typically UMass does not allow observerships. However, there are some exceptions to this rule. On the clinical side, there's a policy 1413, observers of patient care activities, which I will discuss a little bit later. Does GME oversee observerships? Not anymore. So no, we do not. GME only oversees visiting residents and fellows from ACGME accredited programs. Residents and fellows in a residency or fellowship from outside of the US or from a non-ACGME accredited programs are not allowed for observerships or visiting electives. Who should I reach out to with observership requests? About a month or two ago, we did mention that the Med Staff Services Office is now going to oversee these requests. Lisa Lapierre is the new director in Med Staff who replaced Maureen Podesta. So there's 2 email addresses that you should use if you want to send out a request to have an observer come for your program. And they're listed right here. Is there a current observership policy that I can obtain or provide? Yes. So UMass Memorial Health has a policy. I will share that and it will be uploaded to MedHub as well. And then it goes into really detailed information. I did cut this out of the policy on what observerships are not allowed. One on G on this slide, family and acquaintances of UMMC staff. That is a very common request from programs. They have a family member who wants to just come in and check things out before they apply to a residency or whatnot. Typically, no, they're not. But I would still suggest if you do have a family member that's interested in joining UMass and they and you really want to see if that can get approved, I would definitely still reach out to Med Staff. Because like I said, sometimes they do make exceptions to the rule, but definitely start there. So what observerships are allowed? So let me show you actually, I have the policy here. So this is the policy that I was referring to, and there's the ones that are not allowed. But if we continue on, there are allowed observers, where a student, instructor, and if it's a different department besides med staff, who you should reach out to if that type is who you're looking at. On this policy, there are links to, like student affairs for visiting medical students. Those would be allowed, and you would go to student affairs for that. Visiting residents, it's GME. Non-UMMC physicians, this is definitely med staff services. There are, like I said, examples that are given here. I'm probably going too fast, but you'll have access to this policy after the meeting. So let's go back. It's pretty long. So if any questions, again, just reach right out to Med Staff Services, and they can definitely help you with that. It'll no longer come through GME, just because we really weren't sure, what exceptions to the rule would be. And based on Steve Bachay's recommendation, he has set it up where it's through Med Staff now. And let's see. Then, so any questions, let me know on that. If you have any questions. I just had a couple slides about the visiting residents. So a major change to the visiting resident, requirements are, we're going to need a rotation schedule at the end of a visiting resident's rotation. So if they're here for a month, after their last day, we will require a rotation schedule from UMass program and from the home institution. This is going to be needed for Julie in finance. And we are meeting actually tomorrow to go over the actual process and develop a process. We did want to hear some ideas though, with regards to final rotation schedules and how you think the best way to get that information to me, to have that included with the visiting resident packet that I forward over to Julie. This is for IRIS reporting. There's been a lot of overlaps where, just say, for example, St. Vincent's had that their resident was with us certain dates, and according to my records, they were here different dates. It can be, even off one day, but it will, cause the overlap. So we're trying to solve that. So within, like I said, we're meeting tomorrow. Once we finalize the new requirements, we will definitely reach out and let you know. Also, I did send out an email already regarding the EPIC training questionnaire. That was sent to everybody, where the visiting resident had to complete it as part of the packet. That EPIC training questionnaire that I had forwarded at the beginning of the academic year is no longer needed. They wish for that questionnaire to be submitted to them electronically. So as soon as I get approval from Med Staff and get the provider number, I forward now the visiting resident an email with a link to complete the questionnaire. And then they just click submit, and it goes right to the training team. The programs still need to submit through ServiceNow a ticket for any EPIC access that's needed, and the network access. That process is still the same. So there is a job aid that I also sent out to everybody. If there's a couple different ways they can have EPIC access. They can have EPIC full access or CVO clinical view only with notes access. And the instructions are provided in the information that I sent to you already. This also will be uploaded into MedHub. A lot of programs have gone with the limited access for Epic because they really don't need to have the full access while they're here just for a couple weeks or a month. I know there's been a lot of delay. Sometimes the training doesn't happen till their last day of the rotation. And we're trying to fix that issue, and so that they have access to whatever they need during the whole time that they're here. So that does it anyway with what I had to talk about. Any questions at all? I know I went pretty quickly, but I know this information will be available and provided to you as well.
I think the only thing I didn't see with this, but this could be because it has not much to do with the paperwork, is in terms of evaluations for the visiting rotation, like the visiting resident. How are these, like, I don't know if maybe Cassie can answer, if Cassie's working on an eval for a visiting trainee in MedHub, or should we just do a paper one? I know in my, like, I don't really have a lot of visitings, at least not now. I will, starting in about 1.5 years. I sent you that email, Deb. But when my trainees go to like BCH and rotate, they send me an eval, and oftentimes it's like a MedHub or New Innovations eval. So I don't know if there's a way of getting a visiting person in there just for like that month to get them an eval, or should we just focus on paper ones for now?
That is a very good question. And a lot of times from once I give approval and clearance and they've cleared, they're all set to come, I usually don't have any more involvement. However, there are some home institutions that include the evaluation as part of the PLA, and that would still be paper. But there is a way which I can work with Cassie on and to do it through MedHub. There was one home institution in Florida, maybe, where the visiting resident came, and they also had MedHub. So it made things a little bit easier. But I know that even if they don't, that it can still be done. So we'll definitely look into that as well. A lot of times, or I don't know, I don't see the evaluation for any of the visiting residents, but like I said, I have seen them as part of the PLA. So I know some definitely require it, but I don't know if all of the institutions, when they come, if they do require it. Do you know that?
Most, I know, like, with, at least on our end, our PLAs all say, like, when you rotate out, you need to do evaluations. So that's really on the sponsoring program to provide you with an evaluation. It's not really our responsibility to be evaluating their trainees, because it's their institution is supposed to be providing you and asking you guys for an evaluation.
Right.
If they're not in MedHub, we can't really send evaluations. And to put trainees into MedHub, I know that's been in the works, and we're trying to figure out the best way to do it. Right now it's really cumbersome, so we haven't quite nailed that one down yet. So if the program feels like they want to evaluate these trainees and send those evaluations back, you can create your own by all means and do it on paper. It won't be through MedHub. But
Okay,
it's really on
thank
the
you.
sponsoring program to provide you with how they evaluate.
All right, thank you. Shirley has her hand up. She has a question.
Hello, it's more like a comment since it's about the EPIC training. I just went through it last week since we have people coming right now. So we asked for full access for EPIC, and the instruction that they had on the form was very complicated, as they were asking questions that I didn't know which one of application. So people, like, I don't have any access to EPIC. I don't know much about it. It was very difficult to enter the question, and if you don't, you're not able to submit it. So I spent like a whole morning trying to deal with it. When I finally get in touch with somebody from the EPIC training, they were not familiar with the form. So I am saying this, so maybe you can reach out to them and then make sure that they submit like the right information.
Okay,
For people to do that.
so the Epic training team was not aware of the questions on the,
The guy that I was talking to is like, this is not a form that he's familiar with. Like he had to walk me through something else that was much simpler.
interesting.
So, so it will be good to follow up with them to make sure that you have the right info. And then it's two-part. One is to get access. They kind of don't talk to each other. One is the training, one is to have a username and password. We're still trying to navigate through it. All is to say that this is not user-friendly for people who are not who are not familiar with Epic One and who are not familiar with dealing with the Epic training people. It's kind of difficult. So I will go back to them and then see if they can provide something that is more accurate and then that all their team are aware of. So when you call, they can help you out.
Thank you very much for that information, Shirley. I am unable to get Epic training or Epic access for any of the visiting residents. One of the main reasons I cannot do this step is because every department is different. Every network access or requirements for every department is different. So every visiting resident that comes here, it really needs to be up to the UMass program to get it for them. I was informed by MedStaff Services to use that new Epic training questionnaire. It was Andrew from MedStaff who worked with the Epic. I thought it was the Epic training team to come up with this electronic submission. They said they were using it for the attendings, new hires, and wanted visiting residents to do it that way too. So there weren't paper ones being submitted by email, and it would all end up in one place. So I will definitely follow up and let them know that there are major issues with this. Thank you, Shirley. Any other questions or issues you have with your visiting residents coming and getting them the access they need while they're here? It's always been a challenge, I do know that, just because they're here for such a short amount of time. And unfortunately, there's nothing I can on my end do.
So one more thing is when you're getting the badge, it's not free, so we have to pay for it.
Oh, that I was aware of that. The problem is I never know what the fee is for the visiting resident because they prorate it based on the time that they're here. So it's not like I can say, maybe there is a per day fee that I could add to the instruction packet.
The badge is $10. I think that's what Shirley, because you pay $10 for the badge and then you have to pay for parking as well.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Is the $10 for the badge when you go pick it up? Well, if they're not with you, for me, I have to go get it first, since it makes no sense for me to tell them to meet me over there and then we have to travel over here. So I have to pay for it myself, and then when we come here, we have to pay for parking again because it's not
$10.
like I keep the receipt so I can be reimbursed, but it's a little bit annoying just because there's no
I'm just really shocked. This is the first time I heard that there was a fee for the badge. I have never been informed that before until just right now. So
I don't know if GME is something that they can pay for, and then so at least we don't have to pay because we need to return the badge. So we pay $10 for 2 weeks, and then I have to pick it up from her before
do
she
you
leaves.
get to reimburse the $10 when they return it?
No, well, I'm gonna get reimbursed for it because I pay for it, but what I'm saying is the visiting resident only have it for 2 weeks, so it makes no sense to have her pay for it and then have to return it after 2 weeks or after a week when she comes.
Right.
Yeah, I
and
think
then
to
also-
clarify,
and also
Shirley
pay-
gets reimbursed by her department because I've had to do that as well with the sleep fellow that comes once a year. I have
Why
to
do-
get him a
Why
badge.
do they have to pay for a badge? We don't like
see, this is the
new
first time
incoming don't pay
anybody
for a
has ever
badge.
even told me this. So I mean, I would definitely add this to the instruction packet for them so that they are aware when they arrive that they need $10. It's not like.
Well, I guess the question is, do they need
I think
$10 or
it's
should we
fine.
be talking to the parking office to see if we can
Yeah.
waive that
Oh,
initial
I'm doing
$10?
that. There's no question there. I'm gonna
Yeah,
start with
okay.
that for sure.
That's
Because if we do
ridiculous.
that, then we don't need to prompt them, because the truth is, I've paid the $10 more than once for my visiting trainees that come for different rotations. They do
Yeah.
make you pay for the initial badge.
Yeah, so I would say waiving it is the first option, the preferable option. If they're not willing to waive it, you know, it is a fee that is
Don't
incurred
listen
by
to
the resident for coming here to do the rotation.
Say hi.
Hi, Max. Hi.
Okay, say bye.
The second option would be that as part of their paperwork, they need to write out a check to UMass Chan parking for $10 to pay for their badge. If the parking office won't waive it, that way they then can cash it. The badge has been paid for. The resident shows up. Shirley can pick it up. Monique can pick it up. No one's paying out of pocket. It's already taken care of. But obviously, waiving it is, I think, what we want to
Exactly.
see if they're willing to do.
I
And-
know that I have students coming in and out and they will not waive it. I've tried.
I'll see what I can do, but it wouldn't be something that GME could pay for either, because we don't even pay for their license, limited
Right.
license, the $100. That has to come from the trainee, but I will definitely start there, and I will talk to Linda in the parking office and see what we can do.
Yeah, I think if it can't be waived, it would be helpful to add it in their instructions so that they're aware that it's either $10 cash or a check. They actually don't accept debit cards, which makes it more frustrating. They're like, oh, there's an ATM down by the cafeteria if you want to take out cash.
Wow, thank you for sharing this with me, because I really was unaware that there was that fee. Because I like to give a heads up to, the trainees before they arrive on what to expect, and that I never knew. So thank you.
Yeah, I always have anyone who comes to visit us, they always go. I send them, or I actually drive them on occasions to say if it's allowed, not allowed, but they're out of state and whatnot, so I've always included that in our orientation packet. I let them know this is the badge cost, this is what the fee is for the whole month and whatnot. If you don't do this, I follow almost the same thing that visiting students used to send. They used to send out a handbook, which is not updated. It's like 2019, and it had the old fees and everything else. So I tell them, like, this is a direction at least to get there. And if you're not able to make it, because for us, it's both campuses. So I had to send them to Memorial Campus to get all that's well, not all. So you guys know, if anyone's been to Memorial Campus, it's just a map to get to. And UMass University is not that simple, but it's a little bit easier than to get to. So I drive them over to the Henry Memorial Campus because it's easy to do that way. They go get their badges, they pay for the fee, they pay for the month, and they're all set. I just have to email University Campus to let them know we have this resident/students, because all of our students and residents have always done it this way. But I let them know in our email that we send them for orientation, saying this is what the cost is and everything else. University, like you guys mentioned, is separate, so they have to go with one of our residents. They walk them down on occasions to say, because they're there for a week. When it comes to consults on occasions, we only have 3 doctors that go and have clinics over the ACC. So they just pay for the week that they're on consults. I leave it up to them what they choose to, because they're not allowed to even park there when they're there. They have to shuttle from the Plantation Street. So, they're paying for parking and they're paying for the badge, but they can't even park on campus. They have just like me, and I tell them that too. So that kind of saves it up a little bit. It's like I have to go and park at Plantation Street in order to come to University Campus for anything. After 2:00, I think I'm allowed to park on the Pine Street lot and whatnot, but that's what I do, is like I take mine, I drive them over, and they pay for the fee if they haven't done it themselves prior to them. But I do tell them that is the cost and stuff like that, but I guess it's to each on how each department does it.
Yeah, my department reimburses me for it, but it is a process. Deb, just as a heads up, you're still sharing screen. I don't know if you want to stop share.
Yeah, if I can figure that out, Monique, I shall. Um,
I guess the other option, I mean, I saw Cassie Wamister's comment that, you know, we want them to come and rotate here, right? We're inviting them. They asked, we accepted, and we want them to come. Is it possible, as it does the parking office, will they accept like a speed type from a department if the department said we'll cover the cost of the badge? Or they only do cash or check? I don't know if the programs would even agree to pay it. I mean, someone has to pay. It's either going to be the trainee or the program that's accepting them to come and visit. So I just thought that might be another option. If, you know, I mean, if the department, Monique, is reimbursing you when you pay out of your pocket, can the parking office accept a speed type so the Department of Pediatrics can say, use this speed type to pay for this badge and have
Yeah.
it just sitting waiting for them?
Garuzzi put in the chat that they do actually accept speed types, if I can speak. So that
Oh,
is
okay.
that is a good idea. I never thought of it. I know I've done speed types to get like parking passes, you know, just to have for them. Like we have a trainee that comes only every Thursday a week for the year, but you know, if there's something going on or there's a holiday or something, then he won't be here. So it doesn't quite make sense to pay for it ahead of time. So we just end up getting day passes for this trainee. That's something else that we've done for those that come like limited days. But Garuzzi did put in the chat that she's done it twice and hopefully it hasn't changed. So there is a promise in asking for them to take the speed type, and that's a great idea. I never thought of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather see you guys do that than have to pay out of pocket. I mean, if it's one person once a year, it's not a big deal. But if you're a department that kind of consistently has a visitor, why would you want to be forking out your own money and waiting to get
Exactly.
reimbursed? It's not really fair. So I guess, you know, we'll be meeting tomorrow. Deb, Cassie, myself, Megan, and Dr. Potts to just sort of start to outline what the process will look like for how we're going to collect rotation schedules, whether we'll have to do them at the beginning of the rotation and then verify them with you after the rotation ends. The problem being, you know, some people might end their rotation early, they might be sick, they might not be here working, and we're claiming them for that time that we understand that they're actually here and working. Or if they have an instance where they have to go back to their home institution for the day because they need to present a didactic with other folks. We need to know all of those details because it gets really messy when we get audited by CMS. And we can't explain those gaps in the training history, because if both organizations are claiming them for the same time, it becomes really complex. So we're going to need to kind of straighten that out. And once we kind of have a process outlined, we can run it by you guys and see, you know, if what we're anticipating makes sense and what we're going to be requesting of you makes sense.
Yeah, I know it's cumbersome to get them into MedHub, but I know from working with BCH, they use, I want to say it's New Innovations, and they entered, like I just recently had 3 people go to BCH and they entered them as a visiting trainee. And they were able to put like their daily schedule from what hours to what hours they were working on all of that. And they shared that with me once they were done. And just as a heads up of something that I was asked for, they asked me for their yearly schedule to just show that we reflect that our trainee was at their site. So that we're giving the accurate information, which that is something new. I've never been asked for that this year, and I have trainees that rotate elsewhere often.
There's because for like certain PLAs, like I know a couple of the Boston ones, MGH and Brigham, they require you to send a schedule so they can have a record of when people are coming. And like I said, we're looking to put our visiting residents into MedHub. It's just extremely cumbersome at this point, the process to do it, because it would be easy to put them in and then, you know, you can populate them onto the schedule. But then there's, you know, the podiatry people. We don't have a podiatry program. There's a lot of visiting trainees that we don't have an actual program for. So there's no way to put in a schedule. So it, you know, we can start doing these things, but then we get stuck and it becomes a lot more, it becomes a lot more cumbersome than just the way we've been doing it. So we're trying to figure out the best way to handle it. So, you know, it's not overwhelming Deb, it's not overwhelming the coordinators with, you know, not for nothing, as is, I have to follow up with you all to put in a schedule. Are those visiting residents going to get put into a schedule? You know, it's that little slice and dice there of finding the best way to handle this equitably for everybody.
Right.
Yeah,
and
that's
there's-
fair.
And there are departments that the coordinators are not the ones who oversee the visiting residents. So like I have several where it's, you know, somebody completely different who doesn't
Doesn't even have
have
MedHub.
access to MedHub,
Yeah.
you know, is not, doesn't use MedHub like the coordinator does. So there's those type of issues as well.
No, that's fair. All right, just thinking out loud, this doesn't have much to do with GME, but I can circle back once I have more information. I actually have a meeting with QGenda in about a week and a half about this new system that they're doing with all of the faculty members and trainees. So I do also wonder, like, how do we get a visiting person into QGenda? I have no idea. So we will see what comes down the pike there as well. But are there any more questions for Deb regarding visiting rotations and observerships? All right. If there are no additional questions for Deb, I did want to take a couple minutes and just open it up to you guys to see if you guys had any feedback or any issues with the new policy for reimbursements for trainees. I know we had to troubleshoot a couple of things. I spoke to Michelle Odger about some things she dealt with. Keep in mind that now for travel, the rule is 60 days, and for any other reimbursement, it's 120 days. The system that they are using creates a hard stop. So if you have any receipts that are over 120 days, the clinical system will ask you to please run them through the medical school, and they will be taxed on those receipts. So just please remind your trainees, make them very aware that starting right now, anything over 120 days will be taxed, and you will have to process it through the med school side. My understanding is that that system, the way it works, it has to go through, why am I blanking on the name of that system? I don't have access to it. PeopleSoft. So it has to go through PeopleSoft, and that is how the trainee will get that reimbursement. It is my understanding that some coordinators do have access through PeopleSoft and can push it through. I personally do not. There's someone in my department that does that. So then I have to get it to them, and they have to process it, and that at times can cause additional delays because now we're waiting on an additional person to sign off and get it pushed through the system. So I am curious if anyone has encountered any issues, or have you guys been dealing with it, any updates? And I also want to pivot to Melissa in case she has additional information that I may not have shared with you all.
I have a kind of, maybe it is specific to radiology, but in ours, we have a very separate accounts for accounts like clinical accounts and the school accounts. And residents are paid through the school account. So the book fund, we still keep it in the clinical account. So we are having some issues as to how to do that, because the paycheck will come from the school account. And I have spoken to our account administrators, but they don't seem to have any answers to that yet. They are insisting that I ask them to not to pay them if it's over 60 or 120 days. But I think it's not going to work out that way, because after all, the residents might have can forget the receipts. So anybody has any suggestion with this?
I mean, my system is the same way where my residents get paid through the medical school and the ed allowance goes into the clinical system. So that is, I think that's very common among a lot of the coordinators on this call. There is a way to do it. I think the unfortunate part is if your finance person is unwilling to do it, then that's a very different topic. But they do have to process it through accounts payables, not accounts payable, PeopleSoft. I don't know if anyone that has access to PeopleSoft can speak onto that process. Some issues that I have heard from my finance person is that because the trainee is housed under the GME group, they don't have access to that trainee, so they have to request special access to that trainee with their employee ID number. So I'm wondering if maybe your accounts person is having that same issue, that they can't view the trainee because they're not housed under radiology. So oftentimes what I've had to do is give them the trainee's medical school employee ID number. They request that access, then they will have access, and then they process that PeopleSoft form.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Monique. I think I will do one thing is like, I will circle back with you and find out more about it. Like I'll talk to Rhonda and get back. Well, I mean, understand exactly what is the issue they have and then probably learn from you more about it.
I can try to help the best I can. Just keep in mind, I personally don't have access to PeopleSoft, but we can try and troubleshoot together, absolutely. And I can, if anything, I can try and obtain more information from my finance person. I don't know if there's anyone on the call here that has access. It looks like Rutzi does. Rutzi, can you please chime in?
Yes. So yeah, I had some experience last year with a trainee that took, several months to submit receipts. So a couple of things I want to say. First, yes, I think that your department, in my case, I got access to this person on PeopleSoft. They requested the access, they gave it to me, and I processed it. But if it's not you, someone else in your department who does this, usually on PeopleSoft, getting access to the students is fairly quick and fairly easy. Yes, I think my department and many other departments struggle with that. Is on the certain budget on the clinical side, and suddenly it becomes part of the school's budget, and that becomes more an internal thing, how each department handles these kind of situations, because it's not just this, there are other situations throughout the year, certain expense that maybe is budgeted in the clinical account, but actually comes from a vendor from the school and needs to be paid to the school. The third thing and most important thing I want to say is that be on top of your learners, because what happened to me is that this learner was graduating, and because this learner was graduating, was also disappearing from PeopleSoft. So I had to process thousands of dollars, and I had to do it in a way that they will open the system for me for the day. I will process, I will have all the signatures and submit by the end of the day, because at the end of the day, the system will close. So make sure you do it before they graduate, or maybe there's some decision in which, but if you don't submit something by a certain date, it cannot be reimbursed. Maybe then a policy like that, because I went through, it was, massive, and I had to have the PD and several people ready to sign the day that the system it was very complex. So yeah, my 2 cents.
Yeah, so I suspect that not paying it probably won't fly. I'm sure CIR will not say that the resident should go unreimbursed. Having taxes taken out of the amount is sort of the penalty they're paying for not following the proper policy and doing it in the time frame that is dictated. I think the way I explained it at GMEC was that programs really should start having these conversations with their residents and fellows now, being very open about this this policy, the dates, the timeline that they have to submit receipts, and then in addition to that, having conversations with the administrators and leadership to say, what do we do when we have done all we could do to communicate this and we have someone who was a straggler and submitted something well out of the 120-day window, what account, identifying the account on the school side that's going to be able to accommodate that. A lot of programs have, like, departments have an academic investment fund or an AIF account. A lot of general sort of expenses can sometimes hit an account like that. So it's sort of working with your department, finance folks and leadership to say, when we get in this situation, what is the account that we're going to use? That's your biggest barrier. And then figuring out how to get them the access, you know, the person who does the PeopleSoft transactions, getting them access to the resident should be fairly straightforward. But I think knowing that in advance and knowing that that's your backup plan for the times when, you know, by no fault of your own, but you still need to get the resident reimbursed. What's the best way to save yourself time and aggravation? And I think it's having those conversations up front and just having that plan B. Because ideally you want everything to go through the clinical. That's where all of the education allowance monies are going. In terms of it hitting a school account, there is probably a way for them to, there to be some sort of transfer of funds from the medical group account to reimburse the school fund that expensed the money. That would take a little bit more research. I think a lot of times the only way you can do that is if you invoice the medical group from a certain account, and then, but trying to get it to hit the correct account is sometimes problematic. So my suggestion would be to start having the conversations with the residents, make sure that everybody is aware of this, and then working with your administrators to say, what school account can we identify when this occurs? Obviously, you let them know in advance that you have to process this reimbursement to this account. And work to see if there's really a need to get reimbursed from the educational allowance fund on the medical group side, if there is a way that they can figure out to get the money back into the school account. But really, I think communication is key at this point. I think the residents and fellows need to know that this is what's going to happen. And hopefully if it happens once, the next time they'll remember and they'll submit the receipts in a timely fashion.
Michelle put in the chat that there is another form that needs to be completed prior approval and exceptions for non-allowable expenses. Michelle, do you want to chime in about this form? I'm not familiar with it, so any information you can share would be wonderful.
I don't remember the form. Yes, I've done PeopleSoft before, but with this form, it's over 120 days. I received a message from accounts payable saying that this has to be completed also. I've just told my residents if there's a receipt over 120 days, I won't do the reimbursement. So also a clinical accounts payable has been horrible. I've had to follow up with every single reimbursement because they've either lost it or haven't reimbursement. It's been like 4 weeks. So those systems are just difficult now.
Yeah, and I guess, Michelle, that's a good point, because if you've got a receipt that's close to the 120-day mark, right, you submit it, and then 3 weeks later you find out resident never got reimbursed, AP didn't process it or lost it, now they're not going to process it because the system has the hard stop, and you're going to have to resubmit it on the clinical side. I mean, on the school side. So that is an issue if you're finding that they're unreliable. You almost have to follow up in a couple days or something to say like, hey, I just want to make sure that this gets submitted.
It's been 6 weeks, and I finally sent an email asking what's the status of this reimbursement, and received an email back saying to another person, can you check on the status of that? And that was last week, and I still haven't heard back.
Hey, Motu.
What?
All right. Yeah, I think that lots of changes. We'll move forward. I was actually, while we were having this conversation, I was thinking maybe a workaround, and who knows, when we try things and we think it's a great idea and then it doesn't work, this may be one of those. But my thought was maybe once a month, sending out a mass email to everyone in my group and saying like, hey, I'm processing reimbursements this afternoon. If you have anything that you haven't submitted, get it to me. Say if I'm doing it on a Friday, send it out on like a Monday of that week and, have it blocked out on my schedule that Friday for these, for this hour and a half, I'm doing reimbursements. Send it to me and let me know, if you have anything. Maybe by having that monthly reminder, that may prompt them to get those receipts in sooner. We shall see if that works. Sometimes things work, sometimes they don't. But I think that may be at least my personal approach moving forward, and we'll see how that works.
Yeah, I think that will help people not hold on to receipts and then get stuck in this situation. I'm sure there's people that hold on to receipts going, oh, it's only $25. I'm going to wait until I have this other thing so that, I'll submit it when I hit 100 or 50 or whatever. But then they just run the risk of A, losing the receipt, or B, oh, I never really got to that and then I forgot. And now we're past the 120 days. Megan and I have been processing the final health insurance reimbursements, and a lot of those were like past the 120-day mark right now, because most people who paid for August, they're invoiced in July, and so we've just kind of hit that 120-day mark. So if people now submit them to us, we're going to be in the same position you guys are in. We're going to have to process it through PeopleSoft, and it's going to get taxed for them.
All right. If we're all done with that discussion, Melissa, I think I've covered the big items. I know there were a couple of reminders that you wanted to share with everyone. We're at 4:10. We have about 20 minutes left. Do you want to jump in with some of those reminders, or those were my big items? I know that Cassie's on the line, but Frankie's unable to join us today. So we may want to pivot their session until the next meeting.
Yes,
but
I think we're going to wait until November.
Yep, until the
Coordinator
November meeting.
forum.
I'm not positive what else you had on your agenda in terms of reminder items.
I don't remember what our reminders were from the time that we talked about them. I know, I know that the reimbursement was the big thing.
Yeah. How are you guys feeling with recruitment starting up? Are you guys okay? We do have 20 minutes. So I guess I can check in with you guys regarding recruitment at this point. And if we,
I was curious about Thalamus and if people have been using it and how they like it more, as compared to Eris.
Is no news good news? I don't know. I only had Esmeralda reach out about having like a one-on-one or having questions on Thalamus, and it seems like she's off of this call now. And I connected her with Miles, but I didn't have anyone else reach out. So is it safe to assume a lot of the coordinators are not using Thalamus this year and have opted to stay with Eris or whatever system you're using? I know Michelle's still doing it on paper. What are the other programs doing?
Radiology has been using it for the past 2 years, 3 years rather. Ever since I've been in radiology, I've been using Thalamus, and I'm happy about it. I use it only for scheduling.
Okay, someone else in the chat said that they use it only for scheduling.
Neurosurgery is using Thalamus for the interviews.
The Thalamus virtual platform?
No, sorry, to send the interviews and invite applicants, but we are using Zoom for the interviews themselves.
I was playing with it today.
Yeah, in the chat, they say that for scheduling purposes, they really like it. I personally am using it. I'm not using the video platform. I'm using it for scheduling, and I'm also creating itineraries in it And I'm trying to get my program's information in there. I just got a text that applicants did not an email that applicants did not receive my attachments with the email. So I will work on troubleshooting that. I'm learning it. So I wish I had more information for you guys, but it seems like for scheduling purposes, I only heard positive feedback so far.
And there is a place wherein you can put the Zoom link also for the interview Zoom link. So that way it is appropriate. But for us, it is not, because we do IR and DR interviews together and both have different links. So but the invite is the same invite. So it is not appropriate for us, but for others, it is, they can even put the Zoom link into the scheduler.
Yeah, it looks like Shirley has her hand up. Shirley, do you want to chime in?
I had a question for you. You said you sent your create your itinerary, but the applicant didn't get them. Is that what you say?
They got the itinerary and they got the confirmation email. What they did not get was the attachments that I attached to that email. So I'm wondering if I just didn't attach them appropriately.
When you send the email, it comes, when you send a message, it comes to your Outlook. See that? Is that what you did? Is that how you did it?
No, I created a template.
Okay, yes, attachment doesn't go that way, but as you have people scheduling, there's a button that says send message, and it takes everybody's email straight to your Outlook.
Okay.
So that if you have to send them attachment, that's how you should do that. Or, so what I do at the front page where it says program information, if I have any attachment, I put it right there. You can
if you upload it, I think it is easier that it gets attached to the email invites which you sent.
All right, I think I like the idea of putting it under program information, so I may do that. I like that idea of having everyone have indefinite access to it.
Yeah, so you don't have to remember to send any attachment. It's right in front, all the information are attached.
Random question, Shirley, is there a place where I can, because we use a Google folder, is there a place where I can just put the link to the Google folder? And the reason why we like using a Google folder is because throughout the year, we may want to update those attachments, and that way we can update the attachment without having to resend it back out. They will just have the link to the Google folder. Is there somewhere where I can put such a link?
Yes, you can. So when you send the invitation, they receive what we call the confirmation email. It's a second template. So my confirmation email said, thank you for interviewing. We'll see you, blah, 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 blah. So in that email, so you can put your link. I do the same thing. In my confirmation email, so I have a Google link, which is a folder that has all my attachment. This is the second place you can see it, as a matter of fact. But you can have your link right there in your confirmation email. You don't send the confirmation email. As soon as they schedule their interview, Talamus send them a confirmation email. So in that email, they will
Okay, so I guess my question is, do they get another confirmation email closer to the dates? The reason why I ask is because I've already scheduled everyone, so putting it there is too late.
No, so I do send them a reminder. You never know with the people. I usually send them a reminder about a week before. So you can send them the Google.
All right, and Thalamus doesn't send an automatic reminder?
You could, I just don't do it there. I don't know why.
Okay.
I'm sure you can. Because there's one side with a whole bunch of templates that you can use. I'm sure there's a reminder right there that you can use. It's because mine is a little bit intricate because I have like a night before social hour that has different things. So I didn't want to mix them up. So that's why I send my reminders separately. But I'm sure you can send it. There's a template for it.
All right, thank you, Shirley. I appreciate your feedback. Does anyone else have any questions for Shirley? She seems to be very knowledgeable, so pick her brain now while we can.
I think we can. You guys should try to use the video. It's very helpful. We don't have nobody. There's no breakout room. There's no moving anybody. It's a link for every single meeting. You just have to just watch people move. I know it's a little bit scary because you want to be in charge, but you just have to take the jump and then let Talamus, do it for you.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I would love to have them, to have the video platform. My department just said, yeah, we ain't paying for it right now. So that part is not free quite yet.
Okay, so if anybody has any question, we have an interview tomorrow, so they can let me know. Thank you.
Are most programs still doing the virtual interviews and not live? I was just curious.
Yeah, I'm definitely virtual still.
I think we have 5 programs that I've been made aware of that are doing in person out of all of our programs. So yeah. Could be a different story next year, but we'll see.
Quick question, is GME still providing some of the like monies for lunch or no?
We are.
Okay.
Yeah, and parking. We're providing parking vouchers. That's why I wanted to know which programs we're going to have folks coming on campus so that we could, we have money in the budget, but we just kind of needed to be prepared for what we're going to need to do. I did find some of my items. One thing we were going to do, which we should have done at the beginning of the meeting, but I think everyone is still on, was welcome our newest GME team members, which Sherry Jakubiak, who is the new pathology coordinator. She replaced Denise Santiago, but had previously been in the role of pathology coordinator a few years back. So welcome back, Sherry. And then Nixa Rios, she is the new coordinator for female pelvic medicine and reconstructive surgery over at Memorial. And Susan Allers is the coordinator for the maternal fetal medicine program, also based over at Memorial. So I just want to say welcome to you guys. Thank you for joining us. One other question that came up recently that I guess while I have everybody here, I'll just mention. The question came up about our GME personnel policies, which is a document. I think when I talked to you at orientation, I say like that's a document that you should review. At this point, the document is pretty out of date. The last update I think was from 2006, I want to say. And it's a document that kind of is required and dictates how you will be treated during your employment. And so it's a document that went through several iterations through school legal, and then also needs to be approved by the Board of Trustees. We started the process of looking to update that document. At the same time, we were in the negotiation process with CIR, coming up with the collective bargaining agreement. At this point in time, the collective bargaining agreement is the document to defer to for anything related to disciplinary, corrective action, grievance procedure, leave of absence, stipend, any of that information. Our labor management team is always going to defer to that document. It's going to be the first place we go. We're in discussions right now on whether or not that personnel policies document is actually needed as a document, as an employment document for UMass Chan Medical School. If it is, we will start the updating process on that and have something, released, probably a year from now. I'm not encouraged at how long it takes to sort of go through all of the steps. And then the fact that the Board of Trustees also has to review and approve it takes a considerable amount of time. So you don't need to really worry about that piece of it. Just know that the collective bargaining agreement is really the go-to document for anything related to resident and fellow employment at this time. Monique, we also mentioned, wanted to mention the opioid curriculum and the reminder for that. I don't have the details around that though. Is it one time during training?
It is. It's one time during training. Let me just pull it up. I actually don't have it in front of me right now either. I can spell opioid. It's not pulling up right now, but what we can do is I added it to my list. I can look it up and get the information together and we can send it via email.
Okay. I know there's an in-person option here at UMass right through iCells, and then I think that there's an online version that was approved. And I can't remember the organization, but we've sent out the link. I think Cassie sent out the link before for folks who need to fulfill the requirement, and it's a secondary option.
Yeah, I have the last link that I have, just like looking through my emails really quickly, is actually very old. So I'm gonna look and see if I can find something more recent. It's from 2021. This is when iCells was roped in, but I believe that's not the case anymore. It is now a separate online curriculum. So I will have to do some digging on my end and get that together. We can send it out in an email. Yeah, there's a link. And the last time it went out, it looks like it was February of 2022. But we can resend that out for everyone and we can get going on that. Did you have anything else, Melissa?
No, I think that was everything.
Okay. All right, guys. Happy Halloween. Let's eat all the candy. Any questions before we break?
Oh, I have one thing. I just want to thank everybody who attended the retreat. It was great to have coordinators there participating in all of the table discussions and really helping us kind of formulate next steps for a lot of these critical areas for GME. So I really want to thank you guys for participating. If you did participate and you received the evaluation, please, fill that out and return it so we can see what everyone really thought and help with our planning of how to move forward.
Did the evaluation go out on MedHub again? Because I didn't get it, and I know I attended. Was it?
It went out. I sent it out by email. It's a SurveyMonkey link, and I think I sent it out yesterday.
Oh, I didn't get it. I'll look again, but unless it went to my spam.
I'll check. And if I don't see you on there, I'll forward it to you.
Thank you.
And the newsletter, I know Cassie just put in the chat, the newsletter will be coming out tomorrow, November 1st.
Did you still want baby pictures? I thought I saw something about baby pictures.
Cassie, do you want to say anything about that? Oh, she's saying yes in the chat.
Yes, we would
So
love if people send me their baby pictures. I've got some and they are so cute. I'm squealing.
So we Cassie and I talked offline and we're going to change it to guess the GME star rather than guess the coordinator, because we want, administrative GME staff, OGME staff. We want everyone to kind of be involved, anyone that's related to GME. So, yeah, so send in the baby pictures.
Yay. Yeah, I think that's going to be fun. I like that. As a pediatrics person, I think I'm fully on board with baby pictures.
And Cassie, what's the plan for that? Like, how are we going to see them, or are they going to be?
So I'm thinking like we'll put the picture and then a link below where it has all the GME stars names in it, and then the person who's sending in who they think they are, they put their name in and then they click on who they think the person is, and then we review it and put it on the following newsletter, like this was the person.
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't worked it all out yet.
All right.
But I'm loving it. The ones that I got. So cute.
And what age do we, are we trying to do like toddler age?
I guess.
Or school, up to like age like 5 or something. I don't know. Sometimes as people get older, it's a little bit easier to see some of the resemblance, a little bit harder when they're 2.
Oh, some of the baby ones too, you'll know right away.
Oh, really?
But it's, yes, it's like, oh my gosh, so cute.
All right.
Yeah, we do baby pictures at graduation and it's so much fun.
Yeah.
As long as you're not asking for the awkward teenage stage, which I don't know. In 2023, I feel like there is no awkward teenage stage because these teenagers look so good all the time. I'm like, dude, how come? That wasn't me.
I'm so glad this idea got revived because the last time I tried to do this, I got 4 baby pictures.
Mm.
You know why,
All
Monique?
right.
Because when we were teenagers, we didn't have Photoshop and
Ugh.
we put on a filter, and now everyone looks so good because like the pictures are all
Or
Gotcha.
when you're